Here's why your son voted for Donald Trump and what you can do about it. If you're new here, my name's Agam Duan. I'm a psychiatrist, and so it's my job to help moms connect with their sons and help out their mental health. This election has seen more shift in young men voting for Trump and switching over to the Republican Party. And so whatever your political views are, right? The important thing that you need to do is understand why something happens. So that way, if you want to change it or you want to affect it, you can actually do it. Too many people, I think, are just kind of crying or making extreme judgments without trying to understand. And now, especially in your son's case, right, it is very possible that he voted for Trump or he may have switched over sides. And if you want to do your son a service, you want to try to understand him rather than trying to shame him for whatever his decision is. So I'll tell you in my case, right, I remember in 2020, I was seeing my therapist and I'm talking to her and the election's coming up, and I said, I didn't even vote for Trump, but I said that I respected how he was able to convince half a country to vote for him despite having no political experience. That's marketing. I said I was impressed with it. I was an entrepreneur. I had some business interests. And so my therapist goes, how could you like that man? I immediately shut down because I was like, you're like, I don't think I said that anything much that entire interaction. And then the next session, she apologized, but the session was done. Or the trust was gone. She was my therapist. That was supposed to be the one place where I can let loose openly. And I got shamed for that, And so, I was a young man, 25 years old. My therapist was a mid-50s lady. That could easily be you and your son. So you do not want to have that reaction. For me, at least, initially, I used to be Democratic. I loved Obama. I remember my roommate in college was supporting Romney, and I was like, oh, thank God Romney didn't win. Obama's so cool. And then in 2016, Trump came along, and I thought he was deranged, he was going to be volatile, loose cannon, bad for the country, and I voted for Hillary. And then 2020 came along, and I was kind of more undecided. And then now, this 2024 election, I saw a lot of stuff that turned me away from the Democratic Party. One was just the absolute shoving down of wokeism culture in our faces. I have no problem with homosexuality or gay people. My roommate in college in med school was homosexual. He was one of my really good friends, right? I've been to plenty of gay bars together with him before. I've even kissed a few guys just in experimenting. I have no problem with it. And yet I felt that this message was being forced down our throats. And I was like, okay. And now I was being made to feel guilty for not being an avid gung-ho supporter. That's what it made me feel like. The other thing I felt was that there was a message of anti-masculinity, anti-men that's being portrayed. And, I'm all for feminist movement and the empowerment of women. But it seems to be less of that and more about the bringing down of men, and men are struggling now. We have less college degrees now than women. We are competing for the same jobs now, but men are expected to be the breadwinners still. The feminist movement what it's done is, because women are now more successful economically, they want more successful guys than them, as they always have. They still want guys to be able to pay the bills and all of that, right? They still want them to pay for the date, and they look for guys who are more successful. So now, if the women are making more money, they're making more money compared to men. So now there's a smaller and smaller pool of men that are eligible for dating. So that's why a lot of men aren't having success. And then furthermore, so that's alienating a lot of guys too. They keep getting told that they should check their white privilege or their male privilege, yet they're like, what privilege do I have? I barely have a job that I pay for, that I can make ends meet at. No women are into me. I go to work and then I come home and then I watch TV and then I, maybe jack off. I go on Tinder for a little bit and, I get no matches. I get ghosted whenever I try. I text some girl who I knew and she'll ghost me. What kind of privilege do I have? Meanwhile, I see girls out here flying out on yachts and being taken out on trips, right? I've been on trips where I've paid thousands of dollars and, women have paid nothing to go on those trips. No one ever talks about the feminism over there, right? But that's not the point. The point is that there seems to be an anti-masculinity movement, and a lot of guys are feeling really hurt and isolated by that, and no one is addressing this. It's a very, like, no one talks about this. It's not cool to talk about male problems. Men have 3-4 times a suicide rate than women do. But, there's all this push about getting women into mental health, and there's no push about getting men into mental health. So all of that being said to say, there's a huge anti-masculinity movement. And so then one of the reasons I think Trump was so successful is because he is bringing back strong masculinity. He's making guys feel heard. And so no matter what your reaction is in listening to this, I'm just sharing with you what millions of guys feel, right? And so if you are going to, shame me, mock me, you can do whatever, but you are trying to help your son. And if you want to help your son, the only way that you can do that is by accepting and understanding his perspective. So I'm sharing with you what his perspective might be. A lot of young men really admire Trump because of his leadership, right? He represents strong strength, decisiveness. Like, when I look at the two leaders, I feel inspired by Trump. I see a wildly successful businessman who has networked with some of the highest level individuals in the country, right? Who's been able to withstand tons of pressure of businesses, of the White House. This president's probably the hardest job in the world. We withstands all that pressure and still keeps going. We see all the other presidents have aged from presidency. Like Obama's the classic example. And yet, like, this man seems unfazed by it. Like, he can handle anything. And that's strong leadership. That's why 50% of women voted for him, was because of they see that leadership. So it's the same thing, especially with guys, because as men, the only thing that we have going for us, especially nowadays, is our strength, right? That's what separates us, because if we don't have that, like mental strength, if we don't have that, then we don't have anything. What makes us different from women? Why would women want us if we can't offer them anything, right? So that leadership desire is so strong, and we identify with that. And then, I think the other thing is that Trump identifies the struggle of men. Like, he understands that, okay, you guys feel isolated, especially like the blue collar working class guys, the construction, police, EMS, like all of that type of stuff, the mechanics, plumbers. He understands that. Like, he understands that they live lives of quiet desperation, so he calls them out. Whereas the Democratic Party just makes us feel shamed for being a guy. Like, I remember listening to Kamala's stuff, like, the rhetoric that I felt was being told was I should vote for her because I want to support women. And if I don't vote for her, that means I'm anti-women. Like, that's how I felt it was her rhetoric, and it made no sense to me. So I was like, why should I feel guilty to vote for you? So, if I feel that way, then millions of other young men feel that way as well, too. Then there was the other thing about cancellation. So especially when the election was coming up, like, I kept seeing it in real time. Like, all of these figures keep getting canceled. Like Andrew Tate was the first one that I saw witness to. I was like, holy shit. And then, seeing Trump, I kept seeing all of his content just being suppressed in the algorithm. The perfect example is the Joe Rogan and Trump interview that came out. You tried searching for it, you literally couldn't find it, and like people were pointing this out, like, what the fuck, this should be the biggest interview of the century, yet it's being censored. That was a whole nother red flag. Like, they are definitely trying to censor this guy. A lot of like the right-wing content was being suppressed as well. And in fact, after the election, Zuckerberg admitted, like, yeah, like the government was calling us, telling us to suppress all this stuff, even the vaccine stuff, right? Like the anti-vax. And the one thing I disagree with the Republican Party about, like, their anti-science rhetoric. Like, I'm very pro-science. I believe in vaccines. But what he was saying was that they were like, any kind of anti-vax content was being silenced because the government was really, really pushing on that. And now with the stuff with Doge coming out too, all the agendas that are being pushed. But the whole point is that we were seeing all this hypocrisy that the left was doing, and it's all visible online. So a lot of young guys, especially, we are told that our word is our bond, and loyalty means something to men. So seeing all this stuff is just like, what is happening? Like, I can't support this. And that was a big thing. And then lastly, I think economic wise too, like, COVID downturn, there was a lot of unrest that happened from that. And so because of that, like a lot of young men are financially struggling. And it's very important for us to be financially strong, because that's what we are literally valued for. If we are not financially strong, if we don't provide, then Nobody gives a fuck about us. We have to provide for our families. Otherwise, men are disposable. That's why we get sent off to the military. On first dates, I pay for them. On when we go on nights out, who pays for them? The guy pays for them. Any trips we go, the guys pay for them. It's always the family support, right? Men pay for them. Men, we inherently understand that if we're not making money, we're quite frankly useless to society, and that's how we get perceived as useless. No one cares about our beauty, and so because of this, it's really important for men to be successful, and so that's why young men support Trump, because we fundamentally understand this. Now that you hear all this, right, you might have a reaction of, oh, fuck this guy, screw this psychiatrist, or he's a misogynist. But that's not going to help you. That reaction won't help you. What you're trying to do is you're trying to understand your son, right? And you're trying to connect with him. So if you want to help your boy out, then your boy probably has very similar thoughts to this. I guarantee you, if you ask him and you understand, like you do it from a genuine place of trying to understand him, you will open up so many conversations, and you will probably be much closer to him in that one conversation than in years that you've been knowing him. So if you're just able to discuss with him, voice some of these things that I say, just see what his thoughts and opinions are, I think you'll be shocked at how close you can get to him. So I hope that helps you. And if you want to connect and do a consultation, see how we can help you and help your son's mental health, then feel free to book a consult. And I'll see you in the next video.